What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. In this video I'm going to be installing a sensor to monitor the pressure coming from my lift pump on my 2006 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD LBZ Duramax. So this is the actual sensor itself. It's a 1/8 inch NPT. As you can see, the tapered thread. And we're going to thread this into our AirDog 2 5G 165 lift pump, and this is going to tell us our pressure coming from the lift pump so we can monitor the pressure. And here's the actual harness. It came with this harness. I actually put the loom on it myself. It just comes with bare wires. I don't understand why they don't just put some loom on it, but I just went ahead and put loom on it myself. I think I used 3/8 loom, and used some electrical tape just to protect it. We're going to run this along the driver's side frame rail, and then we got this connector here, and this is going to connect to our Edge CTS3 monitor. We're going to have to run this through the firewall, so this is going to connect to our monitor. And then this is going to connect to this little device here, which lets us connect different sensors. So the first thing we're going to have to do is crack open the 1/8 inch NPT port on the AirDog. I went ahead and pinched off the supply hose to hopefully control some of the leakage, because once you crack that port open, it's going to start to leak fuel out. So I just got some pinch off pliers, and we're going to crack that in just a minute. And we got to also put a little bit of sealant on this sensor here. So we're going to be using the Permatex liquid sealant. You don't want to use like Teflon tape, because the Teflon tape can break free from the threads and go up through your fuel system. So we're just going to use a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit of thread sealant. We're going to leave the first 1 or 2 threads bare, so they're not potentially getting into the fuel system. We're going to leave the first 2 threads bare, and then we're just going to put the thread sealant on the final few threads, and then we're going to snug it up. So, all right, let's get started. All right, guys, so there's our pinch off plier right there, and our port is right there. You see that brass port there? So we're gonna have to loosen that up with a 3/16 Allen, and then we're gonna thread the sensor in. Wanted to just show you guys this cool little tool I got from Harbor Freight. Look at this little thing. It's called Icon. It was only 30 bucks. And you got all these different bits here. You got an extension, and it's just like a mini ratchet with a flexible head. Really nice, much better than just a regular Allen wrench. So I just tested the plug that's in there, and it wasn't in there tight, so shouldn't be hard to get it out. Alright guys, so I might have put a little bit too much, but as you can see, I left the first 2 threads bare just to be on the safe side, because it's really those final threads that are responsible for keeping everything tight. So we're going to thread this in now. Alright guys, so we got the sensor installed. Now the weird thing is there's like a big gap there, you see that? So you don't want to over tighten these because they're NPT threads. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to hand tighten. Just make sure as you're tightening by hand that you're not cross threading. Make sure that it's properly threading in and it doesn't feel like it's cross threaded. But the NPT threads, the way they work is they wedge against each other, so they're not straight threads. They're kind of at an angle. So as you tighten, the threads wedge against each other, and that creates a leak-proof seal. So even without this sealant, it probably would be okay. It might just drip a little bit, but there is that gap there. I think that's probably okay. This sealant from Permatex, they say up to 24 hours you can make adjustments before it sets. You want to give it at least a couple hours to initially set in place. So I'm not going to try to start the truck yet and check for leaks. I'm going to give it, you know, maybe a couple hours. You know, just let that thread sealant, you know, do its thing. And I cleaned up around the sensor just to make sure that when I check if it's leaking, I'm not looking at, you know, from the leak from the install. But those pinch off pliers really made a huge difference. There wasn't much fluid spilled out. Like as soon as I cracked it open, I would say maybe like a quarter of a cup or half a cup of fuel just leaked out initially, and then it stopped. And that's because I had the supply hose here clipped off. I clipped off the supply hose, so it didn't have that siphoning effect. But if you didn't clip it off, it'd probably be continuously leaking. It just had that initial leak, whatever was inside, and then that's it. So I probably won't even really need to do any kind of crazy priming. And then I had to use a 7/8 wrench. Basically, I got it hand tight until I couldn't tighten it by hand anymore, and then I just used the 7/8 wrench, and I went about, I would say, 1.5 to 2 turns past hand tight. You don't want to go more than probably 2 turns past hand tight, because you can damage the threads, especially on a small NPT thread like this. So really like 1.5, max 2. I think I was probably like 1.5. But we're gonna start it up in a couple hours and see if there's any leaks. I cleaned up around real good. Hopefully there's nothing wrong with that gap there like that. Hopefully that'll be okay. We're gonna run the wires now. I'll show you how I'm gonna run the wires. Just use the Amazon Basics 7/8 wrench. Guys, the Amazon Basics wrench kit, man, I think I paid like 20 bucks for it. I've done everything with these Amazon Basics wrenches. They're good enough for most projects. All right, guys, so we got 2 cables to run here. We got this one that's gonna go through the firewall, and then we got this one for the sensor. So one end is gonna plug into the sensor, and the other end is gonna plug into this splitter here. And this is going to go through the firewall. Now, one thing I did, if you notice, I taped up all my connections, especially the one that's going to be going through the firewall. I put a lot of electrical tape just to protect them, you know, while I'm working. Just some, you know, painter's tape. Just tape up your connections. This way you don't get any dirt or any grease or any crud in there, okay? And I put wire loom on mine, as you can see. I put wire loom on everything, so I highly recommend you loom everything up. And I'm going to loom this one up as well. Once I run it through the firewall, I'm going to loom this cable up as well. All right, guys, so it's a little bit hard to see, but there's a grommet there for the firewall. I already made a couple of holes in it for other cables, my DSP5 switch and some other stuff. So we're going to use one of the existing holes for the D switch up on the left there. I'm going to try to slide it in through there. All right, guys, making progress. We pulled the cable through, and we're going to start running the actual sensor cable. Just dropped it down in there. We're going to go along the driver's side frame rail. And one thing you got to remember when you're using the Edge EAS is you want to make sure you're connecting them correctly. So here you can see a yellow, red, and black one, and then a yellow, red, and black one. So this other one actually has a green wire. So I don't know if it makes a difference. It might. So just keep that in mind. And it even says, you know, looks like, you know, I can't tell. That looks like a C, B, and A, or G, B, and A. I don't know. Ground, battery, and then A. And then just, you know, line that up. Here you can see also C, B, A. So we're going to finish running this cable and then set up the sensor. All right, guys, so I got everything wired up nice. Got the EAS thing right here. and it's going down through the firewall, and we got everything zip tied nice and tight, but we still have access to this if we need access to it. So just cycled the pump for 30 seconds. Let's check and see if there's any leaks. All right, guys, good news. It's not leaking. Not seeing any fuel dripping around or anything like that. It looks like it's good. So we're gonna cycle the pump a little bit more, and then we're gonna start it, and we're gonna go into the edge and set everything up and see what our pressure's like. That's gonna be interesting. Yeah, so far no leaks, so that's good. All right, guys, so I had to update my Edge CTS3 with their update agent 1.0, and when I did that, I didn't have it connected to my OBD2, but it just updated the device, and then I rebooted it. I plugged it back into the OBD2, and it's now saying new EAS devices have been detected. Do you want to configure them? So we're going to say yes. It says universal sensor, and I believe it was output B. So we're just going to change the name. We're going to say lift pump. All right, guys, so the truck is idling right now, and you can see my sensor there, lift 10.69 psi. So once you configure it, you can change the display name, you can do whatever you want, you can change the units, but it's in PSI. It's a 0 to 100 PSI sensor. I'll just show you how to find it. So make sure you update your Edge first. You have to update it, because if I didn't update it, I was not able to find this sensor. So make sure you have it updated. You're going to go to advanced PIDs, and then you're going to see EAS. You're going to click EAS, and you're going to see either universal input A or universal input B, whatever. And this is what I have it called now, lift. That's what I have it set for now. So that's how you do it. So you know what we'll do is we'll do a test drive, and we'll do some accelerating and see how the lift pump pressure holds under acceleration. But it looks like a steady 10.69 psi, so that's perfect. Basically, that's exactly what you want. I think they set it 8 to 10 psi from the factory, so that's great. Everything's working the way it should, and this is a great way to monitor the health of your fuel system, especially the low pressure side. Everybody's focused on the high pressure side, you know, because you have your injectors and your main injection pump, and that's, you know, important, obviously. But your low pressure side is critical too, because without the low pressure side, you wouldn't have any fuel to inject into your motor. So the low pressure side is the foundation of your whole fuel system. So, you know, you want to keep an eye on it. Make sure that, you know, your low pressure side is not running out of fuel due to various reasons. Could be just an aging pump, a faulty pump, bad connections, loose connections. You know, there's so many things, but this will actually give you an idea of what is going on by being able to monitor your low side pressure at your lift pump. You know, you can diagnose a lot of issues much better than if you don't have that sensor. You can rule out issues with the high pressure side by having a low pressure side sensor. So can tell you if your filters are starting to clog up and, you know, you need a new filter, or the unit is getting bad. So, but that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more LBZ Duramax content. I have a lot more planned. I'm going to be installing some rock lights and some side marker lights. I'm going to try to give the truck semi-truck kind of look. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to run some chicken lights on the rockers, and I'm going to do a couple of interesting things with this truck. So hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll keep you guys updated if there's any issues with my lift pump, but so far no problems whatsoever. So if you want to see the install of how I installed the lift pump, the AirDog, I'll leave a link in the top right corner, so highly recommend you check that video out. It was a little bit of a pain disconnecting the one fuel line. The main issue I had was I wasn't pulling on it hard enough. So you really got to yank on those fuel lines when you're disconnecting them. But you know, I talk about some other issues in the video, like when I was trying to prime the lift pump. That was actually a mistake. I'm not going to do that anymore. Just fill the water separator with fuel. Make sure you fill the water separator with fuel, and just let it run dry. You know, just let it run like that for a couple of times. Just cycle the key on and off 30 seconds 3 times, and that should prime everything. You don't really need to loosen the fuel filter like a lot of people say. There's more of a chance you could damage something by doing that, because the pressure builds up so quick and you just don't have enough time to tighten the fuel filter. And what happened in my case was that the pressure blew out the O-ring on the filter, and it was just gushing out fuel like crazy, and I took a huge shower in diesel fuel. So I'm not making that mistake again. I'd rather just fill the water separator, cycle the key a couple of times until you hear the pump run silently or fairly silent, and then you can start the truck. You can also use the bleeder screw if you have your factory filter still. But that's it for now. Take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere.